you're in a good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, I'm asking you to ask yourself a question. What is impacting you right now? We're impacted daily by things that we're actually aware of and things that we're not aware of. And some of the things that impact us in a positive way, and some not so positive. And it's interesting because some of the things that are impacting us, we can understand they're impacting us, and other things we don't. They might go under the radar. Or the level of their impact may not be completely there. We might not realize it. We might not be able to see it. And so on today's show, I want us to start realizing what is honestly impacting us on a day-to-day, understanding what that impact is, how great the impact is, because our world is moving at such a rapid rate. And I don't know about you, but I feel like everything is feeling as though it happened in 1 minute, and it feels sometimes as that minute is 1 year. And it kind of goes back and forth between that timeline. And I don't know about you, but if you're feeling this, where it feels like literally you saw them a minute ago, like you had friends and it's almost like you felt like you spent time with them yesterday, but it almost feels like you haven't seen them in a year. It's very interesting because if you're there, you're understanding exactly where I'm at. And it might be something for you to sit with, to understand, to kind of marinate on throughout this show, whether you're working out at the gym or driving, down the street, or you're at the office and you have me in the background, whatever it is, or you're just listening directly to the radio or the podcast. This is something to really analyze and begin to see where we are, what we're doing, and the things that we need to be aware of. We have an impact by people in our lives. We're impacted by them. We're impacted by relationships. We're impacted by our own choices. We're impacted by media. We're impacted by specific situations, specific things, specific changes. And it's interesting because the media can play something down that might be right in front of your face, but the thing that they're playing down is impacting your life directly. It's impacting you directly. And it may even be indirectly, because we might even be making jokes or memes about it, but it's still impacting us. And it's interesting, too, because the impact quotient is very interesting, because something may impact you directly. It may impact you indirectly. And a lot of times when something impacts us indirectly, we don't really think about it. We don't think about it until it impacts us in a different way, until it shifts or changes or morphs in a different way. And so it was interesting the other day, I was looking at social media, and I do that occasionally after I've had a long day at work, and I'll look at social media and I'll start finding some of these folks that post all these funny memes, and some of these memes can be really funny and they can be really great. You can waste a lot of time in your life looking at them, but they can be pretty funny. And I stumbled across one, and I'll tell you about it. Okay, so let me give you the visual. There's a guy with his hat turned, like his ball cap turned to the side. Doesn't look like a rapper at all, but okay. And he has like a chain, like a gold chain, and it's connected to a 12-pack of a 1 dozen pack of eggs, cage-free. And you see him wearing that around his neck. Like a necklace, like a chain would be. And it says, rappers in 2023 trying to show that they have a lot of money. He's wearing a carton of eggs. It's great. It's funny. But is it really that funny? I mean, it's funny, but is it that funny? And I don't know about you, but I used to be a big egg person back in the day. I used to eat raw eggs. Like, I thought that was cool. Like, I wanted to be like, like the bodybuilders, and you put them in a glass and you swallow them and you're like, look at me, I'm so cool. Well, I don't do that anymore for many reasons. I don't eat eggs at all anymore. I used to. I mean, occasionally I have an egg white. Okay, fine. But when I saw that, at first the impact was funny, but then I was like, well, I don't really buy eggs anymore. But then also I started realizing the inadvertent impact. Okay, if eggs go up, everything else is going up, right? So it's like, okay, wait a second. But this is something we're really not talking about. This is something that's really not being discussed. It's not being discussed in the media. It's not being discussed in the news. Very interesting. I mean, there's occasional news about the height, the increased expenses of food, but we're not really talking about it at the level that we should be, like the food shortage level that really needs to be discussed. But these are things that we actually are impacted by, directly or indirectly, and we might laugh at a meme, but that can impact our lives. It's interesting because current events, right? Current actual events impact us. And the impact is also felt around us. So the impact itself is felt around us, so we feel it. We're impacted by relationships as well. So people in our life, the relationships that we're in, the romantic relationship we're in, those types of things impact our life greatly. They impact our life greatly. And they impact us at such a level, sometimes we don't even realize it. And we need to take a thought, a step back, an analyzation of the biggest relationships in your life, the most profound relationships in your life. And which ones are those? Which ones are those right now? Which ones are impacting you at the largest rate? Which is impacting you in the greatest rate? Which one is impacting you, good, bad, or indifferent, but in an extreme way? And I want you to look at that, because we have to be really aware of these things, because even if the relationship is super amazing and everything's great, that's awesome. But how much energy are we putting on that? And how much energy are we taking away from other things in our life? And this needs to be addressed, because we have to recognize there's got to be some balance. The other side of the coin of that, a relationship could be amazing in this moment, but can change. And I'm not saying that you want to neglect the relationship and do that stuff, but I'm saying we need to put everything into an honest perspective to understand how much energy are we giving it? How much energy are we giving every relationship in our life? And I think if you look at it, of every relationship in your life, there's some that you're giving a lot of energy. There's some that you're giving some, and there's some that you're giving very little energy to. And some of this needs to continue in the status quo, and some of this needs to change. Some of this needs to change because what's happened is that we've gotten bogged down. We've gotten, really, really down we've really gotten down the rabbit hole when it comes to certain situations in our life, and that really clouds our judgment on other relationships, making it hard for us to grow. So the growth factor in other relationships stops. And that's a problem. That's an issue. We halt. And I know that some people say, okay, I'm having to really focus on this. I'm dealing with this relationship issue. I'm really focused on this. And I understand if you're going through relationship issues, you're going through a possible separation, you're going through a possible divorce, you're at that pass where you're questioning your reality. I understand that's going to take a lot of time and effort on your part. However, what's happening, though, is that, yes, we need to focus on that, but you would probably have to agree with me. Anybody going through that in their life right now, even if it's just drama in the relationship, you'd probably have to agree with me that you're probably giving it a whole lot of attention. And that attention is taking you off target. That attention is making things challenging. That attention is making other areas of your life not work properly. Whether it's at work, you're having trouble focusing. Whether it's you driving down the road, you're having problems driving. You almost run into people multiple times in a day. I've had clients that have had multiple accidents before they call me for their first session, and they say, finally, I give up. I had a couple accidents in the last month because I'm not in it. I can't focus. I'm so focused on this situation and what's happening in this relationship that I cannot focus. I need help. And that's something to think about. That is really something to think about. Is this impacting you? And how much is it impacting you? Now, some of you, the relationships that are impacting you are family members. Some are spouses. Some is your girlfriend or boyfriend. Lots of different levels here. And some of you are being impacted by multiple people. It might be your significant other. It could be the father or mother of your child. It could be the current person in your life that you're romantic with. Whatever it is, this person is taking up a lot of mind share. They are. And it's interesting when you start getting a lot of mind share taken, it's hard to really focus that. It's hard to see that. It's hard to allow that to be. It's hard to sit there and say, okay, wow, this is happening. It's a lot easier to get lost in the minutia. It's a lot easier to go down that rabbit hole and not be able to really focus on what you need to be doing. And it can be really challenging because, and one of the biggest things I want to remind you of is that no matter what the issue is in any of these relationships, it's not going to be solved in an hour. It's not going to be solved in a day. It's probably not even going to be solved in a week or a month. So it's going to take time. And I've realized that humans do not like to wait. Us humans don't like waiting. We just do not like to wait. We do not like to wait. We do not like to wait on anything. So anytime that you're having to wait for something, you begin questioning your reality. You begin to worry about the situation, worry about the outcome, all these things, and the fear factor takes over in a big way. The fear factor takes over in a big way, and we begin to question our reality. And all the other stuff kind of falls by the wayside because we're too busy trying to solve the problem. And we're not thinking that there's other things in our life that we could actually be doing as well. There's other things that we can do to try to move ourselves forward, to do right by ourselves in the process of trying to move the needle forward with the problem over there. And, this show is dedicated to anybody right now that is just super overwhelmed and stressed out with a situation in their life where they just don't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do and you're overwhelmed about it, this is definitely a show that you need to be listening to because you are able to find what you are needing to find and how to put things into perspective. Okay? Because we got to put things into perspective. The stress and anxiety is only creating more problems and more stress and anxiety. It's not creating solution. It's creating more problems. So I'm going to offer you some solutions today on how you can get there, how you can get some peace of mind, how to be able to calm your senses, and how to be able to refocus. So don't turn the channel, don't turn off the podcast, whichever you're listening to, stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Turn it up and jump in the deep end on Perspectives. Now, here's Ashley.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Are you going through stress right now? Is there a situation in your life that is impacting you in a great way, where it's hard for you to focus, and it's hard for you to focus on what's going on in your life? Has it gotten to the point where you can't even focus on driving? Has it gotten to the point where you're just walking into a wall? If that's the case, then we need to understand what is truly impacting you. What is causing you the stress and anxiety, and why are you unable to focus on your day-to-day life? And in today's show, I'm really offering you some tips and understanding of the impacts in your life and who is impacting you, and at what level are they impacting you, and how can we begin to change that? Anybody that's going through a divorce or a breakup, a problem in their marriage, a problem in their relationship, any drama, is definitely going to want to listen to the show because you're going to need some answers and help to what you're dealing with. Because what happens here is that begins to take over our reality. Everything that's going over in your life is taking over your reality. So that particular thing is becoming big, 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 big. It's taking over. It's becoming this big piece in your life. It's really super stressful for you. And you're unable to put other things in perspective. And you're unable to be able to focus on things that can actually make you stronger. Focus on things that can actually help you. Focus on things that can actually create happiness in your life instead of the other way around. And so we really want to focus on that. We really want to see that. We really want to discuss that today. And so, right before the break, I was talking about relationship impact. And that's something that's very important to us. Many of us are impacted by the people that are directly in our life and what they're doing or what they're not doing for that matter and how that impacts us. And that's a big deal. That's huge. That's a huge deal. That's a huge thing for us to understand. And so one of the biggest things that I've realized is that we allow emotion to really take over. Emotion takes over in a big way. And that emotion gets us off target. And so we have to put the emotion in check. We have to check our emotion, and that's very, very hard. It's very hard for us to check our emotion because many of us are triggered. We're triggered by various things. We're triggered by various situations. We're triggered by what people say, what they don't say, the things that they do. All these things can be super, super triggering. It can bring back old memories, old toxicity, old, trauma. And so we have to begin to put this all in perspective. And it's very hard. I had a client the other day. We were talking about it, and her husband has been doing some things, and we've been discussing what we're going to do in retaliation as far as how to change the situation, at least to be able to get some respect in the relationship, and what needs to be done to safeguard her as an individual. And, in the beginning, when somebody does something against you, the attack mode is on. You feel like you want to attack, you go after them, you retaliate. But, the thing is that that's all fine and good and whatever, but it doesn't really work to give any solution. The only way to get solution is to ask yourself how you want to see the situation change. How do you want to see the situation change? And I want you to really think about this because this is a very interesting question. Because the answer has to be beneficial for all concerned. It's got to be beneficial for all concerned, or we're just screwing around. So if you want something to change with your significant other, that's great. But remember, what you want them to change has to be impactful to them. It has to impact them in a positive way. So we have to really think about that because that has to be something that's mutual to both situations. So if you want something to change, it has to be good for both of you, not just for you. And I think if you really think about it, most of us do want changes in our life, and those are good things for everybody concerned. For example, wanting to get a significant other off of drug addiction or alcohol addiction not only benefits you, but it also benefits them, and it benefits the family. So everything has to be beneficial for all concerned, and that's what I really want you to think about today. So when I return, I'll be talking more about this. Stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives. We'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
This is Jake Busey, and you're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. Are you totally stressed out about a situation in your life? Are you totally stressed out about a relationship in your life and something that's not working? And is that stress and anxiety and pain and suffering getting in the way of the rest of your life? Are you literally completely engulfed in that emotion? And it seems that everything else is just, you're just walking through it. You're walking through the motions. You're doing what you have to do to get by. You're barely recognizing what's going on around you. Your work is somewhat getting done. You're somewhat sleeping, somewhat eating, but in all reality, the only thing that's all-encompassing is this situation. Some of you may be impacted by the media. Some of you might be overwhelmed by political media and it is literally taking over your life. about the politics and the situation, and literally you cannot sleep at night because of the stress and anxiety that's carrying with it. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's a marriage, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, maybe even a parent dynamic that has gotten out of control. And when we look at these situations, we have to figure out a solution, and we have to be able to take away some of that energy that we are expending on that particular situation. Okay, how much energy, how much are we giving it? And how much do we need to do more than just function? How much energy do we need to actually live? And I want you to think about to actually be, not just live, but to be. And I know that we don't like waiting on things. I know that dealing with court cases, for example, when I deal with clients that are in court cases or divorces, the last thing that people want to do is to wait for that case. The last thing someone wants to do is go through a lawsuit, waiting months and months and even years to get some sort of, retribution or recognition or judgment or whatever that looks like. And it can be excruciating because we as human beings hate waiting. And why do we hate waiting? We hate waiting because we super focus and we bird dog on what we're waiting for. Instead of being able to put that on the back burner or be able to see it and say, okay, yeah, it's going to take me 10 months to get through that. Let me really focus my energy on this and that. And that's hard. And why is it hard? Because of our emotions. Our emotions are so in charge of our lives. It literally makes us just spin out of control. Those emotions make us spin out of control. And those emotions can get to us. Those emotions can really mess with us. The emotions. And I want you to think about that. I want you to really, really think about that because emotions can get the best of us. Good, bad, and different. We can be in a great emotional state for one moment and then craziness the next. And we have to think about this logically, and it's hard. But we have to look at what the emotional impact is in these relationships. And one of the things that I've realized is we have to ask ourselves, first off, how do we want this situation to change? What do we need to see happen in the situation to make it right? What do we need to see? I want you to think about that. What do we need to see? Because when you start analyzing that, you start looking at the actual problem or issue instead of the emotion. Okay? So I'll give an example, and this is a crude example, and this is on the fly. You know how I operate. It's on the fly. The best thoughts, the best ideas come poof, immediately. They come into your mind and they appear. Hello. And so a good example is, and I've had clients where, their significant other is addicted to drugs. And all the problems that come from the drug addiction and the drama, not coming home at night, the various things that happen from that, the fear factor that comes from that, the worriness that the family's going to fall apart, the worrying that the person's going to get hurt, the fear that you're going to lose yourself in trying to take care of this person, worrying if they're stepping out of the marriage. All these different things are all taking place at one time. The fear of the degradation of the relationship, the fear of divorce, all these things happening, the fear of their death, the fear of something bad happening to them, all of these things happening. But all those fears and all that emotion and all that confusion, the emotion, the fears, the confusion, all those, the trifecta is all stemming from one thing. And in that particular case, let's just say it's the cocaine addiction. Okay? And so honestly, the thing that has to take place for this to work, it's not I need to, be able to do cocaine and ration it. It's not that, oh yeah, I need to do cocaine at the house and not go out. It is that literally somehow or not, the drug addiction and the use has to stop. And it's hard because we have to have these clean-cut ideas of what needs to happen, and they have to be actionables. And the thing about actionables that are hard is it's hard to stand by an actionable. It's hard to stand by an actionable because we love this person. We love this person and we don't want them to leave. But in reality, nothing's going to get better unless we do something. Nothing's going to get better unless something happens. And the person's not going to get any better unless there's a reason to get better. There has to be a reason to get better. There has to be a reason to stop. And I use this example because I know that, this might be a hard example to take. It might be an example that's challenging for many of you. It may be an example that you have no idea how to even, how to put this into your realm of thought. But it could be an example that works enough that it's so different from what you're dealing with or so similar to what you're dealing with that you get what I'm talking about. So there's got to be a reason to get better. There's got to be a reason to stop. And so let's think about that in terms of this particular situation. So we have all these emotions, we have all these fears, and we're completely confused. We're dealing with a situation where a person is addicted to a drug, and that drug is having them spin out of control. Okay, they're spinning out of control. They're swerving out of control. And this has been going on for a while. It's not like it just started, right? For many of you, these situations have been going on for quite some time. And the big caveat is that the drug use has to stop. But why would it stop if nothing changes with that person? If everybody goes status quo and continues to allow them to be the victim or to baby them or to accept their reality or to sweep it under the rug or to be codependent about it, that person never has to stop. And I want you to think about that because it can be hard, especially for everybody out there that has codependent tendencies. It can be hard for us to put in. And I wouldn't call it an ultimatum because I think ultimatums sound bad. An ultimatum means like I always think that when I hear ultimatum, it's like somebody asking somebody to do something that they shouldn't do. But to some degree, you're having to put your foot down. And in order to put our foot down nowadays, we actually have to be in action. But again, remember that's hard, and you have to be willing to leave. And whether it's gambling, there's many people out there that have gambling addictions, drug addictions, sex addictions, whatever that looks like. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, you could be dealing with someone that literally just disrespects you and that doesn't respect you and is narcissistic in nature and puts you down all the time and makes you feel bad. If somebody's making you feel bad and telling you things that you over and over again about how you're doing this wrong, or you look haggard, or you look this, or you look that, that can break somebody down over a period of time too. But you need to also be able to step up and say, I'm not accepting this behavior anymore. I'm not going to accept this behavior. And it's not just tit for tat, because sometimes what happens is you start getting into this emotional argument. An emotional argument with that person, especially if you're dealing with somebody that might be narcissistic in nature, who is using that and hurting your feelings on purpose. On purpose. Are they hurting your feelings on purpose? And that's something that you got to think about. And if that's happening to you and you're in a situation like this, you continuing to battle it with them, you continuing to argue it with them, you continuing to fight with them about this is not going to get anything to make it better. It's actually going to just keep perpetuating the situation. But honestly, you've been allowing this to perpetuate for a very long time. So you're part of the problem as well. And I'm not trying to put you down. I'm just saying you're not adding to the solution because of the fear of them leaving you, the fear of you being alone, the fear of not living the status quo. I mean, all of these things are interesting. All of these things are very important to analyze. And it creates confusion because then you start questioning in your mind, oh, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decision? Am I overanalyzing this? Am I just like wearing my feelings on my sleeve? What's going on here? Maybe I'm just taking things so personally and I need to step back. Okay, that might be possible. You could be taking things super personally, but are you? And those are things that you need to analyze. And one of the best ways to analyze that, am I taking this too personally, is to turn it around. For example, if someone you're in a relationship with is asking you for large amounts of money to take care of their lifestyle, and they're not working, and they're not doing anything, would that be okay for you to ask them for large amounts of money if you were unwilling to work, if you were unwilling to do anything with your life? Would that be okay? And would it be okay for you to demand that money from them? Would that be okay? Okay, and I want you to think about that. Because if you're feeling used or taken advantage of, this is a big thing. If you're feeling used or taken advantage of, we need to analyze the situation and understand it for exactly what it is. Because if you're feeling used and taken advantage of, turn it around. Would they feel used and taken advantage of if I did X, Y, Z? Would that be appropriate for me to do that? Would that be okay for me to do that? And I think many of you are going to come to the conclusion that it's not. I think many of you are going to come to the conclusion and say, what the heck am I doing? I've been allowing this in my life. I've been allowing this situation to take place, and it's just not right. It's not acceptable. It's not what it should be. This is crazy. But I've been allowing it to be. And why have I been allowing it to be? Because I don't want them to leave me. Because I care about them. Because I'm codependent. Because I'm worried I'm going to be alone. Because this. Rattle it off. And so, the money train has to stop. And then you pull the money. And at that point, hey, right now I just don't feel good about this. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And then see how long they're around. And that is really super hard to do. But remember, we're either going to do it now or we're going to do it later. There's no way. It's just like if someone's not pulling their weight right now and they're not doing anything, but they're getting angry at you because they're giving you the sob story and they're giving you, the victim story, you've got to call out the victim. Because the longer you go, the more resources, the more money, the more energy you give the victim, the more they expect it. The more they expect it. And they expect you to do it. And they expect you to continue to do it day after day, week after week, year after year. And eventually you're going to look at yourself and you're going to be like, wow, I have literally supported this person for all of this time. And all I get is anger and resentment when I get home. All I get is somebody trying to call me out about getting my work done, or calling me out about being too late to get home, or whatever it looks like, or having to be on a work call at night that supports their finances, but they have an issue with it. Again, that's entitlement. And so if you're going to support entitlement, you're going to reap the benefits. And those benefits are not good. Reap the benefits of pain and agony. And that's where we need to really focus on is the facts. What's really happening in this relationship and how can we change it? And if you're dealing with a situation that's outside of a relationship and it's a situation that's currently happening, like in the media or a situation that's happening right now, how do you change that? How do you change that emotional impact and do something that can rectify value and do something that can give you solution? Do something that can make you feel safe and feel good about the direction you're going and not feel like you're just there and whatever happens to you, because we have to find some sort of solution. So stay tuned. When I return, I'm going to continue to give solution and continue to let you into some thoughts and ideas to feel better about the situation and get that solution and closure. Live your true life perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 2 shakes.
Get in here. You're listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, if you've been dealing with a stress situation in a relationship or a certain situation where you need some help, you need to find some factual information to be able to push a solution forward, because quite honestly, the situation is causing you pain and suffering. It's causing you to not be able to focus on your life and only being able to super focus on that. And in that process, you're getting stressed out, you're getting anxious, you're getting tired, you're getting exhausted, you feel horrible, you feel overwhelmed, and you feel like there's no solution in sight. So we need to look at the factual evidence of things that we can actually change to make things work in our life, the things that we can actually move forward in our life. And so whether that's a relationship where somebody is needing to take care of one thing that's also very beneficial to them and all concerned, that needs to be taken care of. Us dealing with the symptoms is usually where we stay. So instead of dealing with the actual issue, we deal with these symptoms. Okay, the symptom of whatever. We're not dealing with the real issue. We're not tackling the big issue. Because tackling the big issue is hard. And so whether it's, someone being very narcissistic and gripey and putting you down and making you feel bad and being judgmental. If it's someone that's not carrying their weight and they're completely entitled and they want you to do things for them and they're not willing to help themselves. If it's someone with a drug addiction or alcohol addiction problem and needs to get sober because it's creating havoc in everybody's lives. If it's somebody that doesn't care and they're not being transparent in a way where they're in and out of your life, where they're causing you panic, they're causing you stress, they're ghosting you at one moment and then they're showing up another. If this is happening, we need to have some sort of, this is the solution, I have to see this or I have to move on. And that is what's so hard in life. But I've realized it's almost like pulling off the Band-Aid. We got to do it now or just keep living it. And I think we get closer and closer. It's like I feel like you got to put it out there. Telling this person, for example, like if you feel like this person's completely entitled and you're sick and tired of carrying them, hey, we need to talk, and sitting down and talking and saying, hey, you've got to get a job. I need to see you do something. I need to see you take control of your life. And I want to see that happen. And bringing it back up and bringing it back up. And the next week or two, bringing it back up. It's not going to happen overnight. But eventually you're going to have to put a timeline on it. I'm going to have to see this. I'm going to need to see this. What's the timeline? How does this look? How long is this going to take? Because this impacts both of us. You getting a job and taking care of I'm not asking you to pay for everything, but you doing this can really help not only you and your self-esteem, but it also can help the family, and also it'll stop my resentment. And you not doing this is showing me that you really don't care. And you not doing this is showing me that you're entitled. So eventually it's got to happen anyway, because eventually the relationship will end anyway, because you'll be so resentful and so angry, you're not going to be able to look at this person in the eye anymore. You see what I'm saying? And so there's got to be a timeline. Even if you give it a year and you sit in a relationship for 1 year and say, hey, I'm going to give you 1 year to get some of this stuff together, and we're going to go from there. Great, that's fine. But at least you have a timeline of how much longer you're going to be in this. If it's someone that, is using you, calling out the using. If it's someone that needs to get a hold of their life, calling it out. Not taking their responsibilities for them. Let the things fall apart for them. Because you living for them and you taking care of them is getting in the way of them taking care of themselves. You doing everything for them is not helping them. You doing everything for them is actually hurting them. And that's also part of the reason why they're there too. Right? I mean, the drugs and alcohol is the easy thing to look at, but a lot of times when people are in relationships, that person could be doing it to numb themselves because of the pain and suffering that they're dealing with the other person. So we have to really look at all these sides of the coin, and if you're dealing with something like this, it's like, what do I need to see the solution be? Perhaps if you haven't had sex with your spouse and you've been asking for several years, what needs to happen for us to have sex? Are you never wanting to have sex? Do you need to go get checked out? Do you need to get these things done in your life? Do you need to get these tests done and know about your hormone levels and these sort of things? And will that change? On the other hand, if you lose 50 pounds, will that help you feel better to do that? Will we ever have a relationship where we have this part in our life again? These are questions to ask. And these are things to figure out, because otherwise you sit there and stew and resent and get angry and upset and feel lesser than throughout this entire time, making yourself be more and more offset, not focusing, not getting your stuff done, running into that proverbial wall, running into the back of that car because you're not focusing. I want to see the best for you. I want to see your life be everything that you want it to be. Check out the YouTube channel. Go to YouTube. Put in Ashley Burgess, or put in Ashley Burgess Life Coach, or Life Coach Ashley Burgess. You'll find us. Berges. Also, all social media, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. I'll see you next week for a show, Live Your True Life Perspectives, with me, your host, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.